Namaste, friends. Welcome to Happy Jack Yoga Podcast, episode 38, I believe it is. Today, your host is Happy Hanna. I'm calling from Norway, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to a beautiful community member of Happy Jack Yoga University. Our guest today is Ruu from the UK. Namaste, friend. Satnam.
Namaste. Hannah, it's such an honor to be doing this with you and to be teaching in Habitat University. I really have to say that of all the things I've done in my life, doing my training with you guys and the changes it made in my life, it's just one of the most amazing things I've ever done. You know, I've done some amazing things, and we might get into that, but it was one of the most amazing things. All these limiting beliefs I realized I had, and the joy. You two are just such brilliant teachers, and everyone in the community just makes such a vibe. So it's been such a joy and a pleasure to combine in this way with you guys. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I really love and thank you for it.
Thank you. You're making me cry already. Thank you for that beautiful acknowledgement. And it feels really special coming from you. First of all, because I feel like I've known you for years
Yeah, right. Yeah.
now, right?
Same. Yeah.
And everyone in the community knows you. And that's how communities operate, how they are made is us being in it together.
Yeah.
And everyone will leave their energy and their trace in the community, even if they might not be following every conversation that we're having. So
Yeah.
I'm really honored as well to have you. And especially everyone will understand if I get to read your bio, what an honor it is to co-create with you. So I'm really grateful and humbled by, the fact that you would speak so nicely about Happy Jack Yoga because you have done some really amazing things. So listen up, everybody. Here is Ruu Campbell, and Ruu has been a healer for 30 years and is trained in Argentina, India, Brazil, Guatemala, Mexico, and the UK. And Ruu has led groups since 1995 after his training at the Multi-University of Healing Arts in India in 1994 to 1995. Also, Ruu has taught dynamic meditation and dance since his Kundalini awakening, a Kundalini awakening that he had in 1994. Today, Ruu is a certified Kundalini yoga teacher and a certified Happy Jack yoga teacher and probably other styles as well. And then Ruu is also a certified breathwork instructor, a certified trauma coach, and spiritual practitioner. And also Ruu teaches at festivals, one of them being Wilderness and Verve Festival. And also, fun fact, maybe, I don't know, Ruu, we want to talk about your music later, but an incredible achievement that you've had is that your music was #2 in the US dance charts and has reached over 10 million plays. So now, everyone, you understand that Ruu has done some amazing things, and it really is lovely to get to know you from different perspectives than Happy Jack Yoga, Ruu. And I'd like to begin with like your story as much detail as you're willing to go, because oftentimes through the personal story we can really get into each other's worlds. So
Nice.
yeah, what would you say, Ruu? What is it like from as far back as you feel comfortable going? What is it that has made you the person you are today? Like, where did
Okay. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
begin?
I got you. So I began by choosing a childhood of abuse. Right?
Mm,
So I made sure that I was going to get into the depths of what darkness felt like
mm.
without any question, so that I would have to resolve that darkness.
In this
And
lifetime.
in this
Mm,
lifetime, and my parents did a brilliant job, and
mm.
an unthanked job. And at the time, I was unaware that I'd chosen that, so I hated them vehemently. But now I see that they were fulfilling their role perfectly, and that we all are. You know, some of us are villains, some of us are victors, but we're all performing our roles perfectly in the evolution of consciousness. So that was the biggest thing, that I was hurt, broken, and life seemed very unpleasing in every way. And the journey to resolve that led me to the light.
Hmm. Do you know one thing that when I listen to you, because right now you're leading a Kundalini yoga teacher training at Happy Jack Yoga University. Anyone interested is welcome to join.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, it's going to be self-paced after this week, but if you hear this and you want to join us now, you still can. We'll keep going live every day until Wednesday within the course. No, until Friday within the course in Happy Jack Yoga. But the things that you say often remain with me, and then I journal about them. And one thing that you said is that, and I shared it on our social media, where you said that spirituality is born out of necessity.
Yeah, yeah. You know, that only just landed, Hannah. It just landed when I was in Amritsar in India in the Punjab, and I've done a lecture about it in the course. But we were sandwiched in between, I don't know how many thousands of people, but thousands of us, and we couldn't move. We were totally sandwiched like this. You know, so the person was here and I was, you know, and you could feel the heartbeat of the person next to you. And there was some little children down, you couldn't really see them because they were down there, and we were just wedged in. And then you begin to feel this kind of panic. And then suddenly someone goes, Wah hey guru, wah hey guru. And then we all light up, and everyone, I mean thousands of us, are all singing Wah hey guru, wah hey guru, and we all begin chanting together. And so this situation that would have otherwise been stricken with panic, contraction, was a moment of great oneness. And I saw in that moment the spirituality is born because we need it. We need things to keep us from freaking out. So in that moment, we needed a mantra, and it did the job so beautifully. In other moments, we hit our mats, you know, we do our breath work, you know, that sense that there's actually a universal law. I can't remember the name of it, but the universal law goes, and also in mutation, when there's a need, we transform. And
Hmm.
the need might not be comfortable, but it's going to be a transformation of some kind. That's how my life has felt. None of it's been comfortable, but it's just been necessary, you
Hmm.
know?
I'm
And
gonna write that down. When there's
that
a
hit
need,
me.
there's transformation. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Just think about it. When you really need, if you really need, if there's something you really, really, really want and you need money or you need help, it happens. If you really, really, really need it, there it is. You know, necessity creates. It's unbelievable. It's just that we like to create from our egoic mind, you know, what's pleasant. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to operate quite like that.
Yeah. Wow, that is beautifully said. Incredibly beautiful. And do you want to share with us what that mantra means?
Well, Waheguru is a beautiful I'll just tell you another little story. So I was in India reciting this Japji prayer, right? Where you spend 24 hours underground dipping in this sacred well, and then you recite this prayer through the night. The prayer takes about half an hour to recite, and you recite it on every step for 94 steps. And so you're getting more and more tired, you're getting colder and colder and colder. The spring is freezing, you're getting a bit delirious, you feel like you're never going to get out. And then you get some Indian yogi, about 90 years old, you know, walks past you and just says, Waheguru. And you feel like someone's just given you a Mars bar. And then someone else comes past you and goes, Waheguru. And again, it picks you up, and then someone else, and then every time you go down to the spring, you're saying Waheguru to everyone else on the steps. So you're all keeping each other up with this mantra, Waheguru, Waheguru, Waheguru. It means I bow to the awakened teacher within. I explain why I'm in awe of the incredible situation I find myself in. I'm in
Mm,
awe of this amazing, unpredictable, unfathomable, consistent creative process that somehow I find myself within, that I get to co-create with. Wahe Guru. It includes me. I am that creation in finite form. I'm the individualization of that creative principle in everything I do, whether I like myself or don't like myself. I'm inherently creating all the time. I'm Wahe Guru. I'm Wahe Guru. It's the most beautiful, beautiful thing. So that wa is like a heart, like, oh my God, Wahe. And then not only am I in awe of it, but I am it. Not only am I like, oh my God, Hannah, you're so amazing, but I'm also, I am you.
mm,
And there's this beautiful principle in shamanism, which is the way to get an eagle to go the way you want, or the way to get, a deer to move the way you want, or the way to commune with other things is to become them, that I. So it's very important for me in my journey. And I'm writing a book actually called I Am God. And it's obviously a title that's quite divisive because we all need to start seeing ourselves as that divine presence and not giving our power away to things outside of us. And we're very conditioned to do that. I've been doing that for years and years. A way to a guru, a way to being good in the eyes of God. Am
mm.
I fulfilling my mission properly? Feeling like as a child of God, child of spirituality. Am I okay? Do you all of that kind of looking up to the heavens for answers? No, looking in for the answers.
I love it. Is it, it seems like it's quite a central kind of philosophy or way to practice. Like, I don't know if Kundalini yoga is your main practice, but the I-ness.
Yes, yes, no, it's perfect you say that because I met the Inus before Kundalini, but Kundalini put the stamp on the Inus, right? Because I remember all the way back in 1994, studying from the Enlightened, hearing that I am one. So I'd be like, okay, I am one. So if I am one, what does that mean? If I'm one, it means there's nothing outside me. What does that mean? How do I marry my sentiment of God and angels and the divine with this sentiment of this separate self? And I didn't realize it at the time, and I knew it semantically, but now I rest within my own energy all the time,
I
and
rest
I'm
within my own energy,
yeah,
everybody.
and it's so beautiful to do that and not need any answers, not seek any truths, just know your own energy and make that your practice. And Kundalini gave me that.
Yeah. I rest within my own energy sounds also like a way to find calmness and a way to meditate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm resting within my own energy and I'm giving myself away.
And I'm
So
giving myself, everybody type these things in the chat. I need to
I'm
remember
giving
this.
I'm giving myself away and I'm giving everything I've got away. And the last chink in the chain actually just hit me this year, which is I'm giving my soul away.
Mm,
So I'm giving away any sense of identity away. And in that I find the true expanded sense of who I am, which is
mm.
all it is.
Yeah, like it sounds like in one way you say that I am one, but then I learned from you in our Kundalini course, for example, about the thousand petal lotus that is in our crown chakra, and that these
Yes.
thousands of thoughts are kind of available to us at all
Yes.
times. So even though I am one, and we in Kundalini yoga we have 10 bodies, in other
Yes.
styles maybe they're described as seven or five, depending on what we're discussing. But
Yeah.
In Kundalini yoga, we have 10 bodies, different levels or layers of our being, and we
Yeah.
have thousands of lotus petals in our
Yeah.
at like our that we can access.
Yeah.
So even though I am one, I am quite a multifaceted being.
Yes. You are, but you're never avoiding yourself. So you're, for example, let's take our thought stream. So we have this thousand petal flower in
Mm,
our crown chakra. Okay, so let's talk about the evaluating mind, right? So you guys, if you're practicing a lot, if you're meditating a lot, if you're doing daily practices, you tend not to ask why. You just do. You're inspired and you do, and your instinct. And then if you fall off your daily practices, so you get really busy at work and everything's going well, and there's no need to mend, you don't need the medicine of meditation. So you get a bit blasé and you stop doing it. And then suddenly you find yourself thinking, how do I? How do I do this? How do I resolve this? What should I do? Um, you start acting in relation to things. And what you learn to do when you're doing your practices, you don't act in relation to things. You just are concerned with what you want to create from nothingness. That's when you're on it. So you have this beautiful lotus leaf that sits in your crown chakra with these thousand petals, and you have this thought stream coming to you all the time. And that thought stream can either be reinforcing and positive, or it can be negative, doubtful, and challenging. Now, we're not saying that we don't like doubt, because doubt is what gave birth to science. So, doubt in itself is a beautiful practice. But in relation to the thought stream, we want positive, reinforcing thoughts. So, we practice to raise our vibe, our intention, our frequency, because that pulls towards us more positive thoughts as opposed to negative thoughts.
mm,
And it's really a night and day thing. I'm, as you know, I'm a musician, so I'm creating a lot. And I will, if I'm not practicing, I'll be wrought with doubt. You know, which way do I go? Is it this? Is it that? I'll forget to follow the yeses, and
yeah,
I'll begin to follow the no's. So it's really important to catch
I,
where you begin to follow the nose, stop it, raise your frequency, come back to source, come back to 0 point, and there are the yeses again, and you just keep following those yeses. Don't worry about the no's.
mm, I love that.
Mm.
Wow. Thank you for being so, you know, so available and so amazing and inspiring and willing to share. I want to go back to your story because it's so inspiring to hear people's transformations and their life journeys, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned that you were homeless at some point.
Yeah.
Can you share about that? That sounds
Yes.
mysterious in today's world. How did
It
that
was really,
happen?
it was really challenging and very difficult. I was 15. I'd had a very difficult, my parents were quite abusive. They're still alive, so there's only so much I can say, but it was a challenging experience being their son. And one day I went home and my mother handed me a bag that had a toothbrush and a jumper in it. It was a blue bag, and said, "Good luck," and shut the door.
Mm,
And at this point, I was living, I hadn't led, I'd led quite a, what's the word? Not abundant life. This was a multi-story house behind Buckingham Palace in Knightsbridge in the middle of London. So this was a big shift then. I was suddenly faced with the streets of London, no money, nowhere to go. I'd been expelled from all my schools because I was trying to work various things out. And I it got really dark. It's almost like I needed it to get really dark. And I stayed on I found there was a hotel opposite called the Berkeley Hotel, which is a very to-do hotel, and they had a laundrette with these fans. So the fans would make it hot. So I slept by these fans for a few nights in the heat of the fans, feeling not uncomfortable. There was an intimacy with that. It was almost like I destroyed everything. I couldn't get any lower. This was, I thought I couldn't get any lower. Christ,
so
I did get
it
a lot lower.
like would you say that's like the dark night of the soul in the
Yes, not
saga?
quite yet. Not quite yet.
It
That
has to
was the
get worse
beginning.
before it
Yeah,
gets better.
it got a lot worse. So then, um, I suddenly remember, I had to survive, obviously. So I remembered that I had friends and community, and I pulled myself out of that. But I was a young teenager. I couldn't go into care because I didn't want to go into care.
Mm.
And I was too young to get any kind of benefit. So I had to earn money. So I started dealing.
Mm.
So I started, it got quite, I became a drug dealer for a while, as it were. It felt fairly innocuous at the time. It didn't feel particularly negative, but it became more and more negative until the dark night of the soul was about 2 years after that. I was approaching a church because I felt repulsive. I felt like I had this smell that repelled everyone. And I'd been doing loads of chemicals and, I'd been cold for so many nights. I'd had such a tough time. I'd had to steal my food. It was really dark, it was very dark and very alone. And I felt like I repelled everyone. And there was this church called St. Michael's where I used to go as a kid sometimes. I've always loved churches. They're always sacred places for me where I felt safe. And I couldn't go in the door. I felt so repulsive. No one was in the church, but I couldn't even get in. And at that point, I sat underneath this sign, huddled up, looking at everyone in their warm £1 million houses, and just felt so low and so broken. And something clicked in me of like, no one is going to save you. No one is going to come and save you. No one cares that you're here. No one's, people care about you know, their own who's closest to them, and there's no one coming. So you're going to have to do this for yourself. And slowly I began picking myself up, and, I
What
found a
was your
job.
first step?
My first step was deciding I didn't want to be cold anymore.
Yeah.
Just physically. I deserve more than being cold. I just didn't want to be cold anymore. I didn't want to take class A drugs anymore. I didn't want to be chemically imbalanced anymore.
Mm.
I guess the decision in mind was I want to live. I want to live.
Mm.
And that's my choice, no one else's.
Right.
And that was the beginning. But it was very intense.
Yeah, it sounds like it that you were a 15-year-old is a child really, and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
this was a
yeah.
couple of years later, so
Mm.
still kind of very young. Those are formative years. They will leave deep traces in
Yeah.
us, right? And so from there, then your journey into spirituality. I want to hear
Yeah,
about the story
it's
about the
it's
Herod.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So I decided to live, decided to not take drugs and sell drugs. Um, I've decided to find a job, and I decided to find a school and
How did you do that? Like, where did you find like a home where you can like what are those homeless people's homes, or where did you shower? How did you like organize yourself?
yeah, I was living at that point in Vauxhall with there was a few of us that used to help each other find places to live. So in the beginning we just hop from different places. you know, there were places we could go and stay. And then eventually, I had a flat in Vauxhall and
Vauxhall is
my
an area, or what is that?
it's an area in London.
Hmm.
And this amazing school, I met with the governors and I've always been very, very guided, even in the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So this school, I'd work as a private waiter in a hospital in the evening, and then they would give me a tiny bit of money to help me with my rent, and they let me come to the school. It was a Catholic school and I wasn't Catholic. So
Mm-hmm.
I met with all the governors and they let me, I was always quite good academically.
Mm-hmm.
So I did all that. And then I taught myself A levels. And
Which
then I
means
got,
like the step before you go to university.
yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I decided that I wanted to move forwards and I wanted to be well. And I
Mm.
looked at society and it seemed like scholarship was a way to do that. So I taught myself A levels, got into all the universities, the big ones, the best ones.
So
I
pretty
got,
resourceful, like you were able to apply, like you figured out
yes,
how to apply.
yes, I got straight A's, Hannah. And the
Mhm.
day before my last exam, my classics exam, I got invited by a woman called Princess Galitzine to attend a meditation. I'd been living with her family for a while, and they taught me that families could love each other. They were just so nice to each other. It was such a beautiful healing. And she said to me, I just said I had dinner with someone last night with these people. You've got to go and meditate with them. I know you have to meditate with these people. So she literally just gave me an address, and I went to this house that was on Knightsbridge.
Like, without
And
any prior meditation experience.
no, no experience at all. I knew I wanted to, but I hadn't done anything. I'd been healing, so I'd been healing like I had quite a Christian, I guess, root. My roots were, when I was a young child, I was healing and playing around with healing cats and headaches and that kind of thing with my hands. But I forgot all about that, obviously, as a teenager and was just trying to survive. And then, yeah, I turned up to this house and these amazing people greeted me. They were all wearing robes. None of them were from the UK, and they said they did the meditation that we just did. And they were like, "We're gonna shake, we're gonna dance, we're gonna do all this stuff, and try and watch your thoughts." And at the end, they said to me, "Did you manage to watch your thoughts?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem. There's no problem. I managed to watch my thoughts." And then came out and I was like, "That's kind of this is okay." And then I was walking home because I was walking home and I was going past Harrods
Which
thinking
is
this is
can you describe what it is? Because not
yeah,
everyone might know.
Harrods is like the biggest sort of it's almost an institution itself. It's like a massive department store in Knightsbridge in London, like
Okay.
very high end, opulent. I mean, very very
Luxury.
rich,
If there's like one
luxury.
Disney World of luxury, maybe
Yeah,
that's where it
exactly.
is.
And I was actually brought up just around the corner. This was my area. It was a very, paradoxical upbringing. And I'm walking past Harrods, and it's a very busy Knightsbridge, lots of cars, and then suddenly something went, shoo, shoo, and it was like, and it wasn't comfortable. It was a moment where everything changed from one moment to the next. Like literally, someone just turned a light on, and the air was suddenly thick and full of information and heavy, and I could
How
see
old were you?
19 maybe.
You had just walked out of the meditation
Yeah,
and walked past the Disneyland of luxury
yeah,
and had a weird, uncomfortable experience where
yeah,
your experience of your own body and the surroundings, the air around you
yeah,
shifted.
yeah. Totally changed.
And did you know
And
what it was? Did you know what was happening?
no, but so I went round. This was the night before my final A level, so I went round to a friend's house, tried to talk, and I couldn't be inside. It was like I'd expanded so much that I couldn't be contained.
Inside a
So I
house.
was like, sorry.
Inside a house, you mean? You
Yes,
not
like
at
in a
home.
room. I felt very sort of constricted. I was like, gotta. So we would talk through the window. I was in, in the garden. I had to hang out in the garden, and the flowers were. It was like they were talking to me. It was like they were just full of
Alive.
radiance and flavor and everything. It was like being in some kind of movie. And I remembered they gave me a card after the meditation and they said, call if you've got any problems. So I called them and I was like, what have you done to me?
I got
I've,
problems.
I've got problems. I've got an exam tomorrow morning and all I can do is jump around with the fairies. Like this isn't okay. And the first thing they said was, oh, we thought you were in there somewhere. And I was like, oh, so they had a plan with this. And then and they said, go and take a shower and eat some food, you'll be fine. Of course, at that point, I didn't believe I'd be fine. I was like, there's no way a shower or food's going to help this. I'm high as a kite suddenly, completely expanded. And it did the trick. And the next morning, I aced my exam. I got the best, I did incredibly well. It was so easy. Everything was so easy. And I knew then that my next step was not the mind, but was the heart. Because I'd excelled in the mind, I still felt like crap. I did this meditation and I felt incredible. So it was clear to resolve the human condition, which had already always been an interest of mine somehow, that it was the growing of the heart, not the mind. So as soon as I could, I was off to become a sannyasin in India and take sannyas and
Which
Renounce.
means renouncing.
Well, it actually means, for me, it means dedicating yourself to awareness.
Mm,
That's what I've done. So it means, for me, it means becoming your own master, walking your own path, being of the neutral mind, making nothing wrong or right, myself, you, others, the world. It means not having the judgmental mind as my conductor, but my heart and the oneness of all things. And always sharing our mess, like Happy Jack teaches us so beautifully, and loving to the best of our ability and forgiving ourselves every day when we get that wrong, and not making that wrong. It's been one hell of a trip, hasn't it? I mean, God, they say the human in Kundalini Yoga, they say the earth is a school, and
mm,
everyone's trying to get down here to learn and try things and experiment with things. And if we look at our lives, like from zero to where we are now, my God, it's done a good job, hasn't it?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That is really incredible. Your journey is incredible. So, is it okay if I ask you questions based
Yes.
on things you've said?
Yes.
And hopefully it's fascinating for everyone to hear. One question that I have for you, again, this is a term that I've heard only you use ever, and it's the concept of why mind. What is the why mind? The reason I ask this is because in my own life, my husband died out of the blue when everything was perfect, and I was not
Yeah.
prepared to deal with that.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that in the aftermath of such a devastating loss, I
Yeah.
was really busy wanting to know why.
Yeah.
I was mad. I was mad at the world. I was mad at his country where I'm now.
Yeah.
I'm in love with it.
Yeah.
I was mad at my own father who did not live a life that he could have because he was given a healthy body and not robbed from here in when he was 40, when he was a father to a 3 and a 5-year-old. I was mad at God. I was mad at the healthcare system. I was mad at myself
Yeah.
for not having done something. Why did I not do? What if I had, all of that? You can imagine that took me years
That's a big
to,
one. I mean, that's one of the hardest ones to make sense of. I mean, that's up there. I can't imagine a more challenging, well, I can, involving our children, but I mean, it's up there, isn't it? With the most challenging experiences.
yeah.
How do I make my peace with that?
Yeah, and how do I transform it so it doesn't kill me also? Because I felt like
Yeah.
I'm at risk. And I read somewhere like people, I'm sure it's true for like maybe older populations who actually lived their whole lives together and now don't have their life partner. I don't know. But I felt
Yeah.
like, okay, now I need to make sure that I survive this because this could kill me too. The statistics are not in my favor kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then like over the years, of course, my question of why has turned from why to how. So
Yes.
I've kind of made peace with why, because and I feel like I've looked to all the or most or many of the spiritual traditions for a good answer to my why. And I felt like
Yes.
none of the whys were really satisfying to me because I could still say, but why him? Or but
Yes.
why my babies? Why my
Yes.
family? And you could say, like, well, why not? What's so special about you that shit shouldn't happen to you? And like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
an endless rabbit hole, the why. So
It
I've kind
is.
of decided I'm not gonna why, I'm gonna say how.
No, I like
But
that.
right. And so when you said the why mind, I was like, whoa, I know something
Yeah.
about the why mind from my own
Do.
experience. But what do you
Okay, so
mean?
the the most one of the most uncomfortable truths that heals everything I found is to remember our choice in things. And you're choosing from this is one answer, and there's many. And when answering truth, just know you're always a born hypocrite. It's impossible not to be. So anyone thinking, I could say another answer in another minute, but the one coming to me now is the way I've reconciled myself with the tragedy in my life is to remember my choice in it. And when I'm working with trauma patients, patients is the wrong word, trauma clients, again, we get to a point where we invite our consciousness to see our choice. Because when we take responsibility for what's happening in our life, it means we can't give power away to something outside us. So that why mind is trying to pin energy on something outside you, right? Something's happening to me. And it
Yeah,
might feel like something is.
right. And I think the why mind wants a quick fix.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Whereas, like, because what you're saying here is that in a way you're looking like even when we started this conversation, you said
Yeah,
first thing you said is, I chose this life, and that's a pretty enlightened and like a higher level thinking.
yeah,
I know we can all access that by thinking like, well, this was the journey I chose. If I believe in the fact that the soul comes into a body and chooses the the parents and the situation, like that's a very like a philosophical and abstract way of seeing it, right?
yes, right.
And
Yes.
it's really interesting that you then with the people you work with, that like I would imagine it takes maybe time then to come to that
Yes. I mean, usually
level of
we
acceptance.
we release a lot of emotion. So you've got to get a lot of emotion out of the way. You've got to clear the soul.
And that can take time,
That
right?
can take
And
lots of
practice.
time. And that's what most of our practice is. Because, our enlightenment is always there. It's intact. Nothing, we're crystalline and gorgeous and beautiful. And everything we want to be is right where we are now. But the experience of ourselves might not be that because we've got all this held emotion, and it's often not just our emotion. It can be race consciousness. It can be family consciousness. There's a lot of things going on. So, yes, in a trauma session, you'd work quite a lot before you'd start bringing up, and now I'm going to ask you to do something impossible, which is see that you chose this. But it's at that,
I love
but
it.
it's
Now
at,
I want you to do something impossible, which
yeah,
is you
it's true.
chose it. Love it.
But it's at that point you transform because it is impossible. It's at that point you stop blaming. And
Mm,
that's the key to forgiving life. Unless we forgive life, the energy isn't going to rise
mm,
and we're not going to be self-realized. It's as simple as that. In our neck is a band of forgiveness, control and forgiveness. Like when I worked as a healer, the first thing I do is hold the neck, release the neck. And I would see the human body like a sort of piano, multicolored body. And I'd go into the neck energetically, release control, and then I would start softening into where we don't forgive ourselves, others, the world. And
mm,
only when I've healed or released or brought to consciousness what we're holding on is the energy going to rise all the way up. It's just not
mm.
going to, we might do it temporarily through a practice, but it's going to close right back down again.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
something
yeah,
might trigger it. I love that. So the why mind to you is
the why mind to me is a very useful, beautiful instrument, but it's not who I am.
mhm,
And more specifically, the evaluating mind, in my experience, to make big leaps, lifeline leaps, we want to create from a point, we want to create from a 0 point.
mm,
In Tibetan Buddhism, they call it first dart and second dart. The first dart, the first puja is, say, for example, back pain. A Buddha had back pain all his life. So that's the first dart. The second dart is how you feel about that pain,
mm,
what you do. And as a spiritual practitioner, and I think Happy Jacks, he's learning to be a doctor of divinity, right, in Harvard. If that has
master.
so master divinity. So he'll come across this too. There's a point where you create from nothingness,
Mm,
not from a past position. And the why mind is always operating from a past position, trying to keep you safe, because that's one of the first bodies actually in Kundalini Yoga is the negative mind. The first body in Kundalini Yoga is the soul. We come
mm,
in with a soul. There's nothing I can do for it or against it. That's just I incarnate.
mm,
Then the next body is the negative mind because that keeps my soul body safe. It's
mhm,
built and it's been, educated through generations to keep me safe. but it's the first body. It's just the beginning of the whole journey to radiance. So we
Mm,
have to learn very much not to become the evaluating mind. So if I find myself asking why ever, I've learned that I'm off it. And I
mm,
stop and I come
yeah.
back and I practice.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's very wise and deep, you know. Sometimes when we're angry, we don't have access to
But I have
such
a very, but
noble.
also I have a very active negative mind, really active. So I have to do this stuff, or my mind is going, why did you do that? Why did Hannah say that? Why did you answer like that? It's questioning everything. It's the same mind that was great at doing exams. It loves
Yeah,
information.
yeah.
It's brilliant, but it kind of needs quite a lot of love and care and balance.
And here's where I think also about the sentence that applies here is why spirituality is born out of necessity because
Yeah,
of
yeah. We
the,
need it.
yeah,
Hell, I need it. Yeah,
right.
I need it.
And that's so beautiful. And sometimes we think about spirituality maybe as a luxury or something some people are or are not or choose or do not choose or I'm spiritual or I'm not. And for a lot of
Yeah.
people, it's a defense mechanism too to deny spirituality or any kind of idea of them or their own sense of spirituality. Like either we are not spiritual. But I love how you say that it's actually a necessity. It's not a luxury. It's not an like
Oh,
possible option.
no, I mean, I can get quite, I need reminding sometimes that we're not all clear that we're living in the heart as spiritual beings. Like, I can really forget that that's still not. I mean, we've come a long way since my awakening, like I can't tell you how well we're doing. I mean, it's been incredible the journey. I mean, I practice with my kids and it's not weird. You know what I mean? You can talk about yoga, healing, meditation out and about, and it's not weird.
Yeah.
People are drinking water, wanting to be well. It's changed unrecognizably in the
Mhm.
last 30 years. So we've been
Yeah.
doing our jobs really well, Hannah. Like, well
Yeah.
done. You know what I mean? We've
Mm,
been working really hard. And then from my perspective, we all want what we want, and
mhm,
I'm no different. So I like to be in situations where I can share who I really am. So I have to teach. So I have to dance. So I have to heal.
mm,
Because these are the situations I want to be in, but it's not from any point of self-righteousness. It's not that I'm better than anyone or I'm as low as the next person or as high as the next person. It's just what I have to have.
mhm. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. So back to your Kundalini experience,
Yeah.
did that last a long time or was it like a first kind of stirring of the pot
It it was
of
it was
your
the
energy?
It was like a turn me on my head, spin me round. Truth is not what I thought. You're not gonna go to university, Rue. You're gonna go to India, and we're gonna make sure you do. And so it was a taste. So it lasted. The next morning, I woke up. I could do my exam. I knew it was there. I could access it, but it wasn't the first thing in my consciousness. Do you know what I mean? It was like it was a hit over the head, but the bruise soon healed. But I had to obviously go and learn. It was so clearly where I had to learn. And
Mm.
and I actually I acknowledge myself actually because it wasn't that any other teenagers were going off to do this. It was a really
Wasn't
solo
trendy back
mission.
then.
Yeah.
Nobody did yoga. Nobody went to India.
Yeah, right. But I just
Or
had to do it. And
yeah.
I remember it's still because we do the moments. I love Tony Robbins's moments, and I do them a lot on full moons in Shavasana. And one of my most grateful moments is still taking sannyas. That
Mm,
decision to trust the divine with who I am. But you know what? I was giving power away. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. I
mm.
was still giving power away. So now I've shifted that. And I think Kundalini Yoga, you just have to be ready for it. You have to be
Yeah.
ready. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's sounds like I'm not experienced in that. Like I've done it, but I am not studied it by any means before with you now this week. Seems like a technique to kind of take your own power back and
Yeah.
also surrender it then to the
Yes.
service
Yeah.
of humanity. But I feel like here would be a good moment to ask you my next question that I've been
Okay.
thinking about that I've only heard you ever say. And so I would like to ask you, what does it mean to self-initiate?
Okay.
It's a term I heard you use in the Kundalini.
Yes. It's a beautiful term. This is a big question.
Mm,
When I was all the way back in India, in this commune, everyone was very happy in their little bubble. They'd actually missed the teaching because the teaching was to be your own master.
mm,
Because only in being our own masters will we have that unique fragrance that life wants of us. So, this was the teaching that always came clear to me, that my path was always going to be self initiatory. That you weren't, it's not that someone's going to come and verify who you are. When you know, and when you know, you can impart that knowledge to others.
I love
And
that.
I
That's
didn't
the
know
other
it.
sentence I wanted to say later on.
Who
When you
feels it
know it, you can
knows it, Lord.
share.
Yes,
Yeah.
when you know it, you can share it. That's and there's if you think about it, the only knowledge, yes, Cece, the only knowledge you've got, the only true knowledge is experiential knowledge. Otherwise, you're borrowing knowledge. So the only gift I can impart and take with me, if I can take anything, is what I've experienced. And that's the litmus test to everything.
Mm,
So although we get our certificates and we do our 500-hour tour, and they're all wonderful and great, but the only true certificate you need is your own experience. And then I met Kundalini Yoga, which is self-initiatory. And I was like, aha, this is fabulous. So it's that you are both guru, guide, and recipient. You're the whole, you're all of it. There is nothing outside you. You're never communing with anything outside you. But you must remember the Rumi quote, which is, I don't know how it exactly goes, but it goes something like this. It's not that I'm a drop that will find the ocean. It's that I'm the whole ocean in a drop. That's what we're doing. That's what we're learning to do throughout our lives.
mm,
Did I answer anything then, or did I just go off
yeah.
on?
I love it. You are the whole ocean in a drop. So
Yeah, Rumi says it's so beautiful.
yeah. So what does it look like? What does it mean to self-initiate? Does that mean to like listen to the call from inside
Yes,
towards practice, towards God, whatever expression is
my
the right
intention,
word?
my intention is everything. I'm more powerful than I could ever possibly know. I am the divine in incarnate form. There's a law called the law of reciprocity. I can't ever say the word. The law of reciprocity, or
Mm,
the law of mutual exchange, which is whatever I put out, I get back. So you never need to worry about what's coming back. When you do a load of work and you're like, I didn't get paid, don't worry. You will. Something will come back. Whatever I put out, I get back. So if I'm going, Om Namu, and I've got the intention of initiating myself into the golden chain as a guru in incarnate form, then that is exactly who I am. So what I put out comes back to me. So it's not that anyone can initiate me. I'm the only initiating force. I can give that away. I can project that onto someone else, pretend that they've initiated me, but it's always been me. It's always been me in everything. Even when you're loving another human being, even when you're adoring your husband, it was still your love you were experiencing. You were just projecting it onto him. Now, he was a beautiful vehicle to project it on. And I'm so sorry for your loss, but it was still
I still
you.
love him.
I know you do. And that's the right thing to do because in consciousness, there's no divide, there's
Hmm.
no time, there's no space.
Hmm.
So we're all one. And when one
Yeah.
of us goes, they just leave the body, but they're still so there. but
Yeah.
we'll get tested and we'll grow. And you would have learned so much, Hannah, from that experience. So much.
Yeah, and even just on a practical level, I think obviously like difficulties kind of mold us into the humans we are today. And,
Yeah,
you know,
agreed.
since I cannot change what happened, and since it's not in my hands, I am living in, how can I say, in for him in a way, like as a
Yeah,
legacy for him, in
yeah,
awe of how amazing he was. Then I
yeah,
wanna do my best and use my
yes,
life to what you were saying in your explanation of Wahe Guru. To me sounded like this is a moment of awe at life.
yeah,
The
yeah. I love
infinity
that.
and the beauty of life
I love that.
in word form, right?
Yeah, I love that, Hannah.
Right. And that is a superpower now, but it wasn't
Yeah,
always, and it cost me a lot of
yes. It
anger
wasn't
and
comfortable.
darkness.
No.
Was not comfortable.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And then for me, all of this has happened gradually, almost um kind of like in disguise, that you might not see it from the outside, but inside of me, everything has been slowly reorganized. If there
yeah.
it was or is the principle of enlightenment, in my case, it happens very organically, and yeah, and
I love that.
yeah, we thanks. And we still have a couple of minutes. I want to ask you about
But
one.
Hannah, just one quick thing,
Mm,
just on what you just said, which is I feel that's what we're doing for the one that we come from. So we come into form from that oneness, and we're feeding back our experience to that oneness, and we're all informing, all of us together, all informing that one consciousness that we're of. So we pretend to be separate because it enables me to experience the world of paradoxes and form and opposites and duality. So I can have a hot and a cold, and ugly and a beautiful, a yes and a no, so that we can inform the one of all of that learning. It's just such a beautiful, like you are for your husband,
mm,
we are for the infinite.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's what I think is so beautiful about the way you present Kundalini yoga, is that it is the possibility to use one's amness
Yes.
as,
Yes.
right, like the hole of the needle to, and the camel goes through, like that, to have,
Yeah.
do the impossible with everything that I am. It's an
Yeah.
invitation to that. It's a possibility. It's presenting us the possibility that we can really live a deeply awful awe at all life.
No, no, it's a great word that I know exactly what you mean. I love that
Right,
word. Gets me
right,
every time. Yeah.
through this lifetime, through the challenges that we've had, rather than sticking to the defense mechanisms of saying like, oh
Yes.
no, but I'm not spiritual, or oh no, I'm not whatever it is we say that we're not, right?
Right.
But one question that I had still
Okay.
about Kundalini yoga now escapes my mind. Um, the
You
more you,
prepared. You have it.
here it is, the more you give to this, the more it gives you. Again, using oneself to fully participate in life and in our own evolution. And then you said that resistance is going to find or show you where you can still grow. And then you
Yeah,
said that resistance is a loving hit.
it
I know we
is.
only have minutes, but what comes to your mind when you hear me read my notes to you?
Well, firstly, that I love that you've really experienced it and you're getting what my intention was, which was firstly taking your power back and seeing yourself as your own answer to whatever it is you have in your life. That's such a huge gift. And then Kundalini is a beast at finding where you have blind spots because we can all hide. The ego is so clever at shifting and shaping to the practices that we have, you know. So you do your power yoga, your hero's journey yoga, your meditation, you do, and you want to be comfortable. You can't help it. So the ego is like, oh, I've got this down, and you get a bit lazy. And Kundalini yoga is not having any of that. It's going to come in and go, poof. It's going to find wherever your weaknesses is, and it's going to empower them very strongly. It's not going to be pleasant. It's going to be really hard, but it's going to do you so much good because it's going to fortify those 10 bodies because Kundalini Yoga wants you to have what you want. And the way to get what you want, truly want, that real inner longing that you have, is to befriend your resistance, get really used to getting through that resistance, be victorious over your hero's journey, slay the dragon, and be that expanded version of yourself and do what you really came here to do. And you got to break through a lot to do that. You've got karmic heaviness, race heaviness. There's a war of light and dark always playing out somewhere. There's so much not wanting that we have to tip the scales in our favor, take charge and say, I want the full expression of who I am. And then we need a technology to help us get there. In my experience, that's Kundalini Yoga for me.
Mm.
Did that answer anything?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I love how it, yeah, describes the whole journey.
Yeah.
You know?
So and the more you give, the more you get. That applies to everything in life. Everything. The more you give, the more you get. Should we go? There's a lot of comments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you see something that you want to speak to?
Someone's saying, "What about all the bad things that happen in the world? How do I reconcile that? Like you're trying to reconcile you." It's a very good question, and you need to find your own journey with that. That's the point of this whole experiment. But from a very high perspective, beyond living and dying, guys, beyond living and dying, there's a higher perspective in which we are just the evolution of consciousness. So a lot of our earthly judgments don't apply.
And
That
that's
is
hard to
actually an answer.
accept, isn't it?
It is. It's very hard. And I often get told to mind my own business. When I'm out there and I'm flying around, I often get told to mind my own business. It's not your business to know the answer to this. Your business. In fact, I asked up in Dharamsala, I asked the Dalai Lama's oracle, how are we going to heal this negative force throughout the world? We've got climate change, we've got political breakup, we've got wars, we've got suffering everywhere. The news is full of negativity. How are we going to make a shift? Are we going to make it? And his answer was one heart at a time. And that's where I'm at. You just look after your own heart and let all the other hearts do the same. And we are going to kick it.
Mm. Right. I love that. One heart at a time, right?
Right.
That seems like then we all can make a difference. Then we actually are not powerless. Again,
Yeah.
we take
We
our power
have
back.
made a difference. You've
Mm.
made such a difference.
Yeah, we all have, right?
Yeah. Living in the heart, we all have made such a difference. Think of all the love, all the joy, you know.
Mm.
I mean, we've already run the race of a billion. I mean, how many million sperm just to incarnate? I did a post saying we're all winners. Even if I'm a complete tragedy in life, I've already won. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And
We're
there'll
all
always be
winners.
the there'll always be the opposite. There's good days, bad